How's it going, everybody? Welcome to the Shebeen Sunday night. Delighted to join you again for a few drops of Irish whiskey. Talk about all things Irish whiskey. Sip on a little bit of Midleton Very Rare 2023 tonight. Talk about that, new packaging, NFTs, all kinds of things. Joined by Anthony Sheehy from JJ Sheehy's Pub and founder of Irish Whiskey Auctions, co-founder of Irish Whiskey Auctions. Yes. Anthony's been putting in a solid day's work today, and he's not done yet because he heard there was whiskey to be talked about and he didn't want to be out of the conversation. So here he is.
No, that's it. I'm not shy about talking about whiskey, so I'm happy to do that.
A man who handles more Midleton Very Rare than the people who make the stuff.
There could be an element of truth in that, actually, strangely enough.
Welcome if it's your first time joining us. It's an informal chat. There's nothing academic about this. Bit of crack. Talk about things that interest us. It's not that serious. It's whiskey at the end of the day, and we just want to have a bit of fun and do interesting things around Irish whiskey. We're going to break down some of the discussions around new packaging with Midleton Very Rare tonight, and we're going to talk about NFTs and whiskey news that's happening at the moment. If you're just joining us, let us know what you're drinking, where you're joining us from. We'd love to know. Add your comments into the chat. If you wouldn't mind giving the video a like and giving the channel a subscribe, it costs you nothing and it helps us loads. That'd be very helpful. And let us know throughout the evening what you're drinking. Any questions, anytime, jump into the chat, throw them in there. We'll keep an eye on the questions. Busy day at the pub today?
Was indeed, yeah. As I was just saying to you a few minutes ago, we had a group of 15 mods, I think. Would they be referred to as mods if they're on the mopeds? So there was a group of 15 guys arrived in sort of 12:15. We were only open at 12 o'clock. I was in the process of lighting the stove and having the fire lit and everything else. And the guys came in all rattling with the cold. It was a lovely sunny day here. And they came in rattling with the cold and wanted the fire lit and a couple of pints each. So, and then off they went. And from then on in, they descended into anarchy. So, excellent. Well done.
Is the pub closed now, or are you still...
It is, yes. Katie has make sure that everybody left the building. I was going to do it from in the pub, but the guys are cleaning up, so I sort of thought I'll come in here. This is my whiskey room here in the house and the pub. So one of the nights I'll do it from the pub. Actually, we should both do it from the pub. We can come up and maybe have the pub open and a bit of crack in there, and we can have a proper shebeen, as they say.
Don't threaten me with a good time.
Because I know, Barry, it's so hard to twist your arm to have a look. And I mean, look at the pints.
I'll have an occasional drink. I'll have an occasional sip. So for those of you who've not yet been to Anthony and Katie's pub in Dundalk, JJ Sheehy's Pub, we had a great session there for the whiskey bus last year till the wee small hours, and squeezed everyone in. Bit of a session, bit of traditional music going in the corner. Fantastic crack altogether.
Great crack. Tonight. No, yeah, it was another lock-in. Richard Dankovic's up for that. I think we do you think if we put a call out, there'd be shortage of volunteers to come in there and help us? No. And there is a bit of a selection of whiskey behind the bar, which is literally growing by the week as I keep adding bottles to it, and I've actually had to build more shelving and everything else. So yeah. So it's a
guy who gets hold of whiskey, and
absolutely. And strangely enough, there's one or two bottles of Midleton in the Barry.
How about that? Do you have 2023 at all in the pub yet, or no?
I don't. I haven't even got a bottle of it myself. Strangely enough, I didn't get a bottle yet. I'm always sort of not. I don't rush out and I buy into the have to get it now because. Look, you'll pick it up at some stage.
You'll get it.
Yeah, exactly.
You'll get it more than most people will get. There's probably 45,000 of them shipped to you at the moment.
I don't know. I mean, that's one of the things we're getting asked at the minute, and people are asking about are we limiting the amount of bottles that's going to be put in, or are we even accepting them? And I'm saying yes, we're accepting them. We're doing a sort of first come first served basis. I think it's prudent to sort of cap it, but we don't know what that cap is until we see what the demand is. I mean, if we get 20 of them, then I reckon the market can easily support 20 of them. If I get 100 of them, then I think it would be foolish of me to dump 100 into the market in an auction and expect the prices to. So I'm always, I think I've mentioned it to you before, that I serve two masters in the fact that, you know, the sellers trust me with the bottles to get them a top price, and the buyers are always trying to buy it as cheap as possible. So we're always trying to find that middle ground and as I say, serve two masters. But look, Midleton's been one of the long steads of Irish whiskey auctions from day one. I mean, we were lucky enough to sell a full set of Midleton Very Rare in our very first auction. It's what seems like a bargain now of 36,000. Flash in Revolution in Waterford bought it. I don't think he'll mind me saying that because he has it on display. So
on the shelves, yeah.
Yeah, it's
very good. A long time. It feels like a long time ago, but it was only, what, 4 years ago? 2018, was it?
Coming up in 5 years this October, and it feels like an eternity, Barry. I don't know, you mightn't see it, doesn't feel that long ago, but there's Katie walking past me, and she'll attest that it feels like an eternity. Yes,
the beard was red when you started.
Yeah.
Let's start with Midleton Very Rare. So this week, because it is the whiskey news, which seems like actually about 6 months ago that it was announced, but it was only, I think, on Wednesday maybe, or that Midleton Very Rare was announced, and I think lots has happened since. But we want to talk about this because it has generated a bit of a buzz, and mostly because of its packaging. And I don't want to waste too much time talking about cardboard now because life's too short, right? But we can talk about the whiskey anyway. But I want us to so let those folks know who are not aware. Midleton Very Rare 2023 launched this week, and it is the 40th release in the series, which started all the way back in 1984. I have it here. We'll taste it in a little bit. I'll talk about some of the tasting notes that I'm getting from it. A remarkable series of whiskeys, or a series of whiskey that maybe we could chat about for a few minutes. The pinnacle of Irish whiskey is what it is heralded as, and it dates all the way back to 1984. One of the first celebrated releases, or real high-end releases, from the new Midleton distillery in 1984, when Barry Crockett needed to put his, or wanted to put his stamp on a distillery he took over from his father, and probably the one you discuss more than any other series or any other set of whiskies at Irish whiskey auctions, if I'm not mistaken.
Absolutely. And again, as you said, in 1984, I mean, the confidence, or I don't know if it was a confidence thing, but the ability of them guys at the time to bring out a product that was, I mean, its price point again and everything. It was a premium whiskey before we had premium whiskies, before we had the multitude of premium whiskies we have today. And even, I'll even go as far as to say, you know, in the early days of Scotch wasn't heavy hitters like they are now. I mean, people weren't seeing whiskey in the same way that they view whiskey these days. So bringing it out in 1984 was a jump. And actually, just on that, a guy reached out to us during the week, and he had a bottle of 1984, but it's in a thin box. And so anybody who knows the Midleton Very Rare early days, the 1980s, as we called it, the 6 cardboard ones, they were in a wider box that had the yellow lining. But this one was in a narrow box. That's the one, Barry, yeah. So in 1984 one, this was one that this guy is talking to me about, was one of the first 1,000 bottles that was done for Shannon Airport exclusively. So they put it into Shannon Airport as a sort of, we'll see how this goes. 1,000 bottles. It didn't have the huge, it didn't have certificates. It didn't have anything else. I mean, in the early days, the 1984, we've sold ones with a hand-typed letter for the invitation. So, I mean, it really was a new endeavor for them to do. And I mean, it's served them well, I think, over the years.
It's changed quite a bit over the years. So the new packaging we're seeing now is, so it's recycled card, recyclable, this kind of second piece of packaging outside the bottle. You got your case, it's cardboard. It was cardboard in 1984, but it had the kind of that yellow silky lining in it. And then it went to wooden boxes in 1990, and it stayed with wooden boxes all the way up to 2000 and, well, until last year, or until this year. 2 different boxes. so there's been all these different shapes, different sizes, from 70cl, 75cl over the years. Yet it's still counted as a collection, even though we've got such variances in the look of the bottles. That doesn't seem to carry over to other whiskey brands. Why is Midleton Very Rare so special?
I don't know. I can't answer that. I mean, it seems to have struck a chord with people. It was the first one that was a continuous annual release. And I mean, a few other brands have come and gone with that. I mean, Bushmills had the 21-year-old, had it initially had it as an annual release. And in truth, I mean, if people care to look, most single casks say Midleton Very Rare. The Dar Gaelic series says Midleton Very Rare on it. So the Midleton Very Rare term actually is an all-encompassing of what that line is. It's not just that one product. But as you said, the first 6 years were cardboard. Again, it was it was released in 1984. In the early days, I think it was about 35 punt for the first bottles. You would have bought a bottle of Power's Bottle of Paddy for about 7-8 punt. So that was the difference in pricing of it. 88, 89. I mean, people often ask me, why was 88, 89 so rare? I mean, Ireland was on its knees in 88, 89. I mean, we were broke at the time. It was our first recession per se, first modern recession. And they just had cut production numbers. They were well back. So that's how the 88 and the 89 are so rare in themselves. 89, was the last year of it, of the cardboards. So, I mean, they had to change to the 1990s. Yeah, to change to the 1990s. And again, I've anecdotally, I believe that it was another roll of the dice, because they wanted to sort of maybe change from the packaging that they had to try and reinvigorate the brand. It wasn't really selling particularly well, because again, as I say, it was the price point. I mean, it was a premium pricing product for something like that, and so they changed the packaging to that to make it look and feel more high end, and that's where the heavier wooden box came into play.
And then 2017, you had both boxes. You had the old shape and the new shape for the last time, two in 1 year.
That's one that causes much consternation amongst collectors of, which is the more valuable, is the old shape or the new shape more valuable.
Yeah. And then we moved on to this shape, which is the bottle change in 2017. The bottle shape has kind of stayed the same. There's one label change I noticed on the 2023, and it's just that it says on the label in 2023 that's bottled in 2023, and the 2022 just says 2022, which may be to do with the technical file and making it clear what the year stands for. But in any case, they've added the words bottled in for those who are curious about such trivialities. There was, I suppose, always when you introduce something new, you're going to have people raising their arms and clutching their pearls and worrying, will tomorrow even come? When something like this arrives. But are we crazy to be worrying about such things as packaging, boxes? Why are we so worried about that?
Look, I mean, again, that one product seems to encompass both ends of the spectrum. I mean, you've got collectors out there who and I mean, in truth, the collection thing has only, it's a sort of relative modern phenomenon. I mean, yes, there was collectors in 10 years ago, people were collecting whiskey. I was at it myself. So, but it hasn't become as widespread. I mean, everybody knows about Midleton Very Rare now. I mean, housewives, everybody knows about Midleton Very Rare. People asking, I mean, I've had the most sort of, people ask me and you're sort of going, how are you even aware of this product? I mean, how do you know that? And it's just everybody's aware of it. So yes, I think is the thing. You can see how the collectors are concerned. I think, personally, my opinion, I think that the new packaging holds up well, sitting alongside its predecessors. I don't think it looks entirely out of place. I think it's a nice, fresh, modern look.
Yeah.
I really
Yeah. I like
do. I you know, the packaging. I mean, the silvering. It's nice. It feels luxurious. I know from talking to the team in Midleton, they can't say unequivocally it's 100% recyclable. Also, there is magnets in the doors, but the magnets themselves can be recycled as well. So I mean, the product itself is a great, and it's a reflection where all the businesses are going to have to go at some stage. They're going to have to be environmentally aware. I mean, again, you've had people come out and say, "Well, shit, cardboard's made from trees, and trees were made for wood, and wood." Look, a lot of
yeah.
the modern packaging is recycled in the first place itself. So I think it's
And it also, per Irish distillers, it reduces energy to make it. It reduces water consumption, and it's lighter. It's going to be cheaper to ship. It's going to be there at various stages of the supply chain and production. It sounds like there's savings. And look, what's interesting, I was trying to think about it during the week because I'm fascinated by kind of human behavior around whiskey, and often there's no answers to what people do, and that's the beauty of it, the kind of the irrationality of it, and the non-predictability of it, unpredictability of it. But like with something like Midleton Very Rare 2023, compared to 2022, 21, all the way back to 17, I'm fascinated by how it, like, the packaging tends to overtake the whiskey. And I'm wondering, does that come down to the fact that in Ireland, more than other countries, there's a collectible nature to whiskey that doesn't yet exist in the likes of the United States? Has it to a certain degree, but for the most part, it's almost like people are worried that there'll be maybe a reduced value to something in the secondary market, or this won't hold up as well as a piece of wooden packaging.
Um, Look, from my indication so far, it's just that we're at a more advanced stage of the Irish market. I think, look, Scotch has been collected for years in America, in Asia. I mean, they go mad for the Macallans, the Bowmores. The presentation of them was always important. I mean, look, Macallan was changing the packaging of the boxes back in the 70s when they went from just a bottle presentation on its own to putting it in a cardboard box to just a loose cardboard box and then in something more substantial. So, I mean, look, we're lagging, I say, behind Scotch. Scotch has always been out there ahead of us. I think the Irish market, look, I'm reluctant to say this, but I think prior to Irish whiskey auctions existing, the channels weren't really there for people to trade. It weren't as public, and for non-whiskey people, it wasn't as public. You know, there was groups and there was forums and there was stuff like that, and societies where whiskey enthusiasts, you know, exchanged bottles. But I mean, when we came into existence and we sort of, you know, now there's 3-4 other platforms within Ireland, and it just gives everybody the opportunity to collect whiskey and to see the value in it. And look, you know, when people ask me what I do for a living and I sort of say, well, I own a business called Irish Whiskey Auctions, the ears prick up and they're like, okay. So look, the packaging, I think, is important at the minute because we're behind it. I think that the American market is still very drinking focused, which is great. I mean, ultimately, that's what it is. But it's still a very young market. I mean, I'd say if you talk to Irish distillers or Midleton, they'll sort of tell you that they're only at the crawling stages for America in their plans and what they think that it's capable of supporting.
Aren't we? We're spoiled in many ways. You talk about 1984, nothing like this being released, and Midleton Very Rare now being referred to as the pinnacle of Irish whiskey. Yet that's a tough title to hold on to when Midleton themselves probably release more pinnacled releases than this. And how does this maintain? It must be a big challenge if you're what keeps the brand team up at night. Maybe there's more important things than this keep them up at night, but how do you maintain this? You know, it's a all American oak, 40% ABV blended whiskey, and there are many for now. This new maturing whiskey enjoying market. There are maybe more pinnacled releases that be higher proof, older whiskies, single pot, single malt. How does Midleton hold its place there?
Look, my reading of it would be, you've got guys like Kevin O'Gorman now and Brian before him that, look, they get to choose. I mean, what's the number at the minute? 2.2 million barrels.
Yeah,
So they have an overall view of what that stock is and what that stock, could potentially materialize into. So they've got the job of bringing a product to market that is literally the pick of what they've got in it. I'm sure, and look, and we all know that they've got better single cask products down there. But as a finished blended product, there's not much else like that could hold its hand. I mean, 30. I believe in this year's one, is there 30-year-old stock in it? Is it 30?
I think so, yeah.
30, late 20s, early 30s-year-old stock in it. So, I mean, look, it is the pinnacle of what they can do. I mean, nobody else can replicate at the minute.
No.
Bushmills potentially could. I only had this conversation with Lauren the other day that we were discussing about the new 33-year-old coming out with the port, and we were saying the presentation and everything else. But I said, surely there's stock in Bushmills that's older. I mean, the 25-year-old Millennium Malt, so the 1975 distillate that became the Millennium Malt, I'm sure there has to be barrels of that intact.
Surely.
Has to be. Just has to be. So that would now be coming up on 50 years old.
Yeah.
So
silent distillery beaters.
Well, exactly that. I know, I can speak from authority, that John Teeling himself has personal casks that are in the region of about 70 to 75 years old. They were from the old Kilbeggan distillery, and they did require a bit of work on that to bring them back. But I mean, again, that's a one-off thing, or it's one or two casks of, not to the volume that Midleton. I mean, how many casks of whiskey does it take to produce that product? I mean, I'd love to. I don't know that. Have you any indication of that?
Only, I mean, nobody at the distillery will outright say, but I mean, is it anywhere from 20,000 to 80,000 bottles, depending on who you talk to, maybe every year? So what's that, 150, 200 casks, maybe?
Yeah. So, I mean, that's a substantial undertaking every year to have to do. And I mean, the pressure per Kevin must feel, or Brian must feel. I mean, they all refer to that they're standing on the shoulders of the guys that were before them. But I mean, they're also looking at it going, I've got to do better. I can't be the one who puts out a dud this year. So they've got to be really, really good.
They do, yeah. And so this is Kevin O'Gorman's third release after taking over from Brian Nation. And Brian Nation's Midleton Very Rares had a characteristic of being more distillate driven, a little bit more pot still, perhaps more spice. And then Kevin played more with the grain, maybe the wood, brought his to be a little bit more, his first two anyway, a little bit more floral, a little bit lighter, a little bit more delicate, I think, than Brian Nation's releases. This one now, 2023, for those wondering about the tasting notes of it, kind of brings back some of that pot still spice, some of that distillate. So this is, compared to last year, compared to 2022, there are more refill bourbon barrels used, ex-bourbon. So it's all American oak casks used, Midleton Very Rare. And the grain element is dialed down a bit. Pot still is increased a little bit. And of that pot still, the traditional, the trad pot, the heavier style of pot still whiskey made at the distillery, is dialed up as well. So the result is you've got a little bit more of an oilier whiskey, a little bit more, it feels like there's a little bit more texture to it slightly. On the nose, it's like really, you get a real kind of butteriness, creaminess. You get those apples, get some orange nectarines. I get a little bit of, I was nosing it earlier and I couldn't get the note out of my head, which was kind of cigar leaf. I couldn't get that note, just a little bit of tobacco leaf kind of on the nose. bit of chocolate, and then on the palate, it's spicier than the 2022. Lovely. It's kind of it's more robust, and it finishes off better than the 2022 for me. 2022 is a little bit drier than this. This one has a lovely kind of sweetness and length to it that goes on. Nectarines, I get a little bit, definitely wood spices. Starts off very soft on the tip of the tongue, and then moves towards kind of a spicy black pepper spice. Oak comes through, works its way out. Nectarines though, and apricots in on the end. That's it. It's got more of that body to it that you'd almost want in a whiskey of this stature. And maybe 2022 is a little bit dialed back on that punch for me, but 2023 brings it back. I like it.
They've always been fairly, and I'm just actually poured myself a bit of 1994. Strange enough. They've always been fairly. I mean, it's a type of whiskey that I've always found that you could go back to again and again, and you seem to find something different in it. It just seems to, and the more you let it breathe, or the more you sit with it, you just find some more length to it, depth to it. They're very, I don't like the word complex whiskies, but they are
layered.
Layered, I think is the word. That you can see that there was a thought process put into them, and there was a building plan involved. I'd love to know how premeditated that is as well. And again, I think, it's very hard. There's so many times when you sit with Kevin or you sit with Brian, his predecessor, and all you want to do is just, and what about this? And what about this? And what about this? And what about this? And they're sort of going, would you just leave me alone? I'm trying to eat me dinner in a restaurant. Would you just go away and leave me alone?
Who are you?
Some comments, Barry. Some of the I mean, look, again, and that's the thing about Midleton is that it attracts some people saying that, I'm a drinker, I'm not a collector, I don't care what the box looks like.
Yeah.
And that's good. And please, more people should do it. I mean, ultimately, that's what it's made for. I mean, I often laugh when people get irate with brands who say, oh, they're releasing too much whiskey. I mean, the sole purpose of a distillery is to make whiskey and sell it.
Right.
And they need people to be drinking it. They need us to be talking about it. We need people to be talking about it. But it's, they have to be doing something else. I did see some other comments. Where am I going? Some of these super Mark McKenzie, some of these super old whiskies aren't really that great to drink.
Yeah,
it's not that they're not great; they're of a time. I think is very the thing that we forget. They are of a time. I mean, the building blocks weren't as good back then. I mean, the cask management, it wasn't. I mean, these days it's just to another level. I mean, the nuances that's in the cask as well. So, look, it's of a time, and I mean, I have been lucky enough to drink whiskies in the company of guys that have this phenomenal palate. I mean, Leo Phelan and Eric Ryan and these guys who can just pull old tasting notes apart, and you're just sitting there literally in awe of them going, isn't it brilliant to have that insight? But they can, spitball a tasting note or a tasting profile from an old bottle that that we're just not used to. And as I say, we're spoiled. I think we're in a real golden age of whiskey at the moment.
We are spoiled. And I think that, I gravitate towards very heavily fortified wine, aged or finished whiskies over the past few years. Really enjoyed kind of high proof malts that are fortified wine finished, perhaps Pedro Jimenez finish, Palo Cortado, maybe entire port aged malts. Same with pot stills. But that really kind of changes your palate. Then you go back to something like a Midleton Very Rare, and it's kind of elegant, it's delicate, it's layered. It's like taking little petals off a flower, like bit by bit, you're like putting them down and you're smelling them. It's very different than something that will hit you strong, like a 21-year-old all sherry cask, But I suppose the beauty of it all is we have choice now that we didn't have back in 1984. There was no such thing as that, really, was there?
No. Another question, another comment in the group there is Tyrone Cotty. Does any whiskey that is more than 20 years old taste any better, and is it worth the extra cost? So again, my thoughts on that is Yes, they are. I mean, look, a 20-plus-year-old whiskey is always going to be better than a 3-year-old new make. It's going to have more depth, layers to it. But there's also ones out there that, I mean, some modern 3-year-old whiskies and young whiskies are just super in their own right.
Yeah.
But what's your thoughts on that, Barry? On is there any whiskey that more than 20-year-old that tastes any better?
I've had terrible 30-year-old whiskies and great 4-year-old whiskies,
Yeah.
But I think you're right. Like, as a standard, I think Ireland has been lucky in the standard. I mean, any whiskey older than 20 years of age has come from one of 3 distilleries in Ireland, so, and we know those distilleries have made good whiskies. So we're quite lucky. And then it was just down to about how was that aged and managed and how was that stock taken care of in that time to see. But we've tended to have ended up, at least what was released, has been good in that age bracket in Ireland over the past few years.
Yeah. And again, like Jason's referring to the Redbreast 21 and Redbreast 27, I mean, you're just spoiled with them.
Sure, look, you could retire on those, just drink those
spoiled.
rest of your life, be happy, be delighted.
I mean,
delighted.
That's the type of thing. If you were, but again, it just shows how. And there's a prime example: a Redbreast 12 or Redbreast 12 cask strength. How does it sit alongside a Redbreast 27? Well, you literally can't compare the two. I mean, they're not even. They're different animals. One's €100 whiskey. One's a €500 whiskey. They're just totally different animals. And I mean, you're not. If you were given the choice, you go, well, look, I can buy 5 bottles of the cask strength for that 1 bottle.
I know.
But
it's also subjective, isn't it? Like,
but isn't it phenomenal to taste that 1 bottle at 27-year-old? I mean,
it's ridiculous. It's a gift. It's a gift.
Yeah,
but on those like whiskey prices, I know I can pinpoint dates over the past number of years where I made proclamations with great wisdom that that someday I would drink, a whiskey of a certain age or a certain price point. And it's amazing how quickly the world of whiskey consumes you, and you have to find a way to get to that whiskey, and you have to find a way, once you know it exists, to drink it, to buy it, to own it. And there was somebody in our Facebook community during the week asking if a whiskey, a Redbreast 26-year-old from Temple Bar, which he found for $1,000 somewhere, he said, is that worth it? And of course, it's the great question of, well, it depends. And the answer of it depends is, to some people, that's robbery, and to others, it's a steal. It's just so subjective, depending on your wallet and your experience and what you're looking for.
And again, it's one of probably the most questions. So when I talk to people and say that we've sold multiple silent distilleries and in the region of €50,000 now, and people go, who pays €50,000 for a bottle of whiskey?
Yeah.
And I constantly have to remind people, not everybody's at the same tier in life.
Right.
But there's guys out there that 50,000 is like me going and buying a cappuccino.
Yeah.
It is just not on their radar. I mean, I've met some of these guys, and they're just, it's not that they're flahula, but it's just so.
I know.
But it's not.
But why do we get so upset? Like, isn't it? And I'm trying to understand this about whiskey. It seems to be quite an emotional topic. Because we study whiskey, we visit distilleries, we make friends with the people who make it. We spend time trying to understand it. It becomes quite personal when whiskey becomes expensive, or when a new release comes out from a distillery that's clearly not aimed at us. We take it personally. How dare they? But we don't do that with cars. Like, walking down the street, if I see an Aston Martin DB11, I'm not angry that it exists. I'd like to have it, but I'm about 15 cars tiers below that. So, but I'm not upset that it exists, But we are with whiskey for some reason.
Yeah. And why was it done? And I mean, something else we're going to talk about tonight, the NFT. I mean, when people hear the price point of that, I go, oh, that's ridiculous. Surely nobody. And you're just going, don't forget, there's guys out there. It's like buying a cappuccino. It's just they've made it that morning as a bonus.
Right. Yeah. I remember years ago, when I was working in Adair Manor as a trainee manager back in 1997, I was working the night shift on the front desk for about 9 months. That's how well they worried about my management training, and they stuck me on nights for 9 months. But I remember one time an Irish couple coming in just kind of off the street, really looking for a room at late at night. I don't know what they were. I don't know how they met, or were they married? I don't know. But in any case, they arrived at the front desk and they were asking how much is the room, if I had a room available. I said, yeah, we do.
Did they ask per hour or anything like that, Barry?
No, they wanted a room for the night. I said, yeah, no problem. I said, it's 230 pounds, Irish pounds at the time, which is a lot of money in 1997. But that was their manner. And they said, they started roaring, laughing. And your man said, oh, do we get to take the bed home for that? You know, as if like this was a ridiculous proposition. But to your point, it's the different tiers. Like maybe we can't all afford everything, so we have to just find our lane and look at the other lanes and see maybe we'll get there one day, you know, if we want to, or be quite happy where we are maybe.
I believe, and again, it was a story I was told on one of these high-end establishments. They had a whiskey, and it was, I think the price quoted to me was 7,000 each for a measure. And two gentlemen arrived by helicopter after playing a golf course that morning. Arrived and proceeded to the barman and asked the barman to make cocktails, old fashions, out of the €7,000 whiskey. He made one each. And then they asked for the same again, €28,000 for 2 drinks, for 4 drinks, but 2 each. So again,
would those people like to come on the next whiskey bus?
Well, I tell you, at that sort of money, I'll let them drive it.
Do you remember we were driving through County Down? I know, probably going up towards Bushmills, actually, up in Antrim, and we were flying around the roads on that whiskey bus. Nigel was driving it, and we were going over all kinds of hillocks and turns and bouncing up and down. And Nigel said something that he just mentioned something to you or me, and somebody in the back didn't hear what he was saying. He said, what did he say? And we said, Nigel said, if you want to take a drive of the bus, come on up. Because so if anyone wants to drive the bus this year, make sure to talk to Nigel. He'll wait for the bumpiest.
I believe we are getting Nigel again.
I think we are.
We put in a special request.
He'll take care of us. We'll probably move on from Midleton Very Rare. We've talked enough about it. I mean, the other packaging, like if we're talking about packaging, I just kind of took some bottles and things off the shelf before move on to the NFT. But I mean, packaging has changed a lot in Ireland, like with whiskey over the past few years. I mean, this is one of the biggest successes in Irish whiskey packaging innovation.
I have a box of them down the window. Genius. I mean, literally genius. Who would have thought it? I mean, a dram and a can. The guys in Two Stacks. I mean, and again, the American audience was the first ones to get hands on that product. I mean,
500,000 of them, 500,000 of them have been sold. Like, this is an extraordinary first ever whiskey in a can. Yeah. And that, let me give one quick plug while I'm talking about this dram and a can, because we have an episode of a new series we just started that I haven't told you about for our whiskey club called the Behind the Scenes. And it's an interview with Shane McCarthy on the business of dram in a can, what it took to come up with this idea, what it took to put it together, how to source the materials, how to build out the pallets, how to bring it to market. It's actually a fascinating story of a new innovation, because there was no template for how to do it in Ireland and couldn't source, even in Europe, some of the materials needed for this. That'll be going live on storiesandsips.com tomorrow. Mark McLaughlin interviewed and sat down with Shane McCarthy from Two Stacks Irish Whiskey, and they had a great long chat. So if you're interested in the business behind packaging, that'll be one to tune into. And I'll take that plug off there now.
I mean, the challenges they had of doing that, and I'm sure it's the same with, I mean, you can imagine the Midleton team when they said, right, you know, what we've done the last, 34 years, we're not going to do it anymore.
Yeah.
We don't want to put it in a wooden box. And there's somebody's going, well, what are we going to do with all these leftover boxes we have? I mean, we've loads of wood at the back. You know, what do you want us to do with that? But I mean, the challenge with an innovation like that, I know from talking to the guys in Two Stacks, the challenges that they faced. I mean, you can imagine in the modern world, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't.
Sure you are, yeah. Yeah.
You know, if you have a premium priced product and you don't have an premium packaging, people will annihilate you.
Yeah.
If you know, the cheaper bottles, you know, if you don't have it, you know, if it's not catching people's eyes, and I mean, that's the first thing that you've got to do in any retail environment is you've got it sitting on the shelf. What do you want it to do? You want it to catch the customer's eye. So, they're going to see that and they're going to look at that. I mean, this side here, I mean, there's a product that, talk about out of the frying pan into the fire.
I know.
Midleton changed the wooden box to the new presentation powered. And I mean, there was nearly uproar. I mean, guys were sort of literally throwing the toys out of the pram going, that's not fair. Where's my wooden box?
Pitchforks.
I do believe there was barricades put up at Midleton at one stage to keep them away.
There was a hostage situation threatened at one point, and it was talked down. He was talked down. Quick question there from Eric Way. So why is the ABV so low in Midleton Very Rare? So it's always been the same. It's just part of the DNA. It hasn't changed. There's no plans for it to change. From the conversations I've had, at least anyway, is that it is what it is. It was started at 40. It remains at 40, and that's what whiskies were at the time. Really, in 1984, they weren't higher than that. I don't think
nobody was doing it. And again, it probably was. I mean, unfortunately, in Ireland, the ABV has a direct correlation to the price, because of the way that the duties are paid and calculated on the alcohol itself. Yeah. So I mean, the higher the ABV, the more taxes involved, the higher the price point. So again, they were trying to find that middle ground of the price point over the rest.
It seems to me that the packaging, as you go up the brands now in Midleton, has moved to the more expensive, more elaborate bottles get the wood, as is probably all that can be done, because Midleton Very Rare was the top, and now when it's no longer the pinnacle or kind of the most expensive, rarest whiskey, like the silent distilleries, the Method of Madness 28, 32, or 30, 33, those get the ornate boxes now, which there's a lot fewer of them made than however many bottles of Midleton Very Rare. So I suppose that makes that doable anyway.
And the woods involved. I mean, the silent distilleries are walnut and stuff like that. And look, they in themselves are a piece of work. I mean, a piece of craftsmanship.
Sure. Look, we can't talk about wood and cardboard all our lives. We've wasted enough time on it, haven't we?
Exactly.
Okay.
So somebody bouncing us back to exactly that. Somebody asking me, what crypto is it going to be paid in? It's Ethereum.
Right. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about this thing. So the Pinnacle Vintage on Wednesday, when Midleton Very Rare 2023 was announced, there was a second announcement kind of hidden in there, but it got the headlines all right. And that was the release of a one single bottle called the Pinnacle Vintage, which is a blend of all 40 vintages plus a sample of pot still whiskey from a 1984 cask distilled by Barry Crockett, which prevents anybody with a full set from making their own. This is a one single bottle that is going for sale on Tuesday, maybe, on Block Bar, which is an online marketplace for NFTs, non-fungible tokens. Let's talk about. So, first of all, what is this?
Fungible. There's a word I never wasn't even on my vocabulary as to fungible and what fungible is, and whether it was non-fungible or fungible. A non-fungible token is essentially it's a certificate of ownership that can be, that is rock solid. That's the buy-in and I mean, dumbing it down to its most basic. It is just a token or a certificate of ownership of an item. Now, whether that be the thing about NFTs is they can be so many other things. They can be artworks. They can be literally anything. It can be a property. Literally anything can be an NFT. But what the NFT is in itself is usually some sort of graphic representation of a product that represents the ownership of this product.
And that's a relatively recent development in the very short life of NFTs, which is a physical asset connected to a NFT in the sense of, like, you talk like an NFT originally was it was a piece of data. It was a graphic, like you said, digital art, for example. To be able to have ownership, non-fungible means it's unrepeatable. It's one of one. So it's a thing that's digital, and it was a way of kind of recording ownership, even of things as crazy as like a tweet or a painting of an ape, or a digital painting of an ape, or whatever it is, or a video. You could prove ownership of that piece of art. And it seems to have morphed into, well, here's a new piece of technology. Let's use that to try and sell things in the real world and make it look like sometimes that there is value attached additional than there was if we didn't do it this way, which isn't always the case. And I want to kind of touch on that a little bit. So what we have here is a bottle that's going on sale through a marketplace where you can trade NFTs. So you're not actually buying the bottle, you're buying a digital proof of ownership, a token. You're buying a token, which entitles you to the right to apply for the physical bottle. In other words, you will then exchange it. And it's phrased that way, I would imagine, to get around shipping rules, sale of alcohol, one of the most regulated things in the world. You can't buy and sell alcohol on public marketplaces. So instead, you're buying a token, which is attached to a physical thing. Because it's a one single bottle, then it doesn't have other things like well, is there artwork attached to this one? I don't think there is.
It is there is the graphic.
The graphic of the moving piece
of it itself. Yeah,
that's the art.
You can from reading this is that Block Bar themselves will retain the bottle. They will hold the bottle essentially in escrow, whilst you have ownership of this token essentially.
Yeah.
You can sell that token at any stage. You will never have physical custody of the bottle unless you redeem the token. And if you redeem that token, that NFT or that token is then essentially destroyed and can never be repeated again.
Right.
And once it's been sort of turned into something real, as in the bottle itself, you redeemed it for the bottle. It can never be then traded digitally again. The item itself, it's gone. It's gone out of the crypto world per se. It's new.
It's new. It's the first big distillery in Ireland to do something with it, and the first, I suppose, to lend a bit of credibility maybe to it as a channel. But it's unproven in the sense of it's appealing to a different audience. Now, if I had a distillery and I had old stock and I had the opportunity to reach a different audience, a different segment maybe with disposable cash based on some success in cryptocurrencies, and I was offered the opportunity to do this, I'd probably do it as well because it opens me up to a new audience. But it's not aimed at the regular consumer. It's definitely aimed at somebody with $130,000 worth of disposable income for the token initially, and that's not typically it's not always the drinker, is it?
No. And a lot of these guys would have been, but again, you as I always refer to it, it brings you into the realm of Wall Street. It brings you into the realm of guys that had disposable income and that were buying cryptocurrencies, either one as an investment vehicle or as two as for shoring up their own finances.
Yeah.
So they bought a lot of cryptos. In truth, I mean, in the early days, if you'd bought a lot of these cryptos, the value of them has increased exponentially. But essentially, you could buy this bottle of whiskey for free.
Mm-hmm.
You would have bought the cryptos. I mean, it was. I have a lamenting story of myself and my business partner Barry in the early days. Not that you, Barry, another Barry that's in my life. In the early days of our AV business, and the guy offered to pay us in Bitcoin, and I said, "What am I going to do with that?" I think at one stage it would have been worth 71 million.
Stop.
Yeah.
No, you can't. You have to purge your mind of that story.
It's long gone, and it's just was one of them things of if only this. It's like trotters. This time next year they'll will be millionaires. So it could have been that. Look, I think this really is a good move for them. They're not the first premium brand to get into this realm. I mean, Hennessy have the Hennessy Paradis in there.
Yeah.
There's Macallan have some. I think there's a Bowmore, if I'm not mistaken.
I'm going to pull up Block Bar here as well on the screen just to show people. So look, here's the platform. It's we're not here promoting it, but we might as well talk about it. So if I go to the marketplace, I can see that there's brands like Johnny Walker, Royal Salute, Hennessy Paradise, like you mentioned there. And each of these on Block Bar, you can buy either. Can you see it right?
Two of them. I think there's 2 Hennessy Paradis available.
There's 500. 500 of these were released.
Oh, 500, yeah.
And you can see down here, you can make an offer on those that are already owned by people. But if I scroll down, I can see that lots of them were never sold. Like they're still available. So there was 500 of them released. Something like 400 odd of them never sold. $2,000 each. But in any case, if I wanted to buy that, I would just click on purchase over here. And this is where it's connected to either your Ethereum wallet. So I don't have mine connected there, but you can purchase the NFT with credit card or with your wallet, your Ethereum wallet. And then what's interesting about it, good or bad, is that once you buy it, you can immediately relist it. So I could buy that bottle for $130,000 if I had $130,000 to spend on it. And then I could immediately relist it. So somebody visiting the website Block Bar in a month's time could see it for $200,000. I've now put it up for offer at that price. So it's kind of a way of trading in a way where you're technically not trading alcohol, you're trading a token, which for the super premium high-end side of things offers a new way that covers storage, fraud protection, provenance, maybe security of transactions, maybe if you trust the platform. Yeah. Look,
I think it's a move for them. Again, we'll see. I think is my. It's like my daddy used to say when I'd ask, "Can we have something sweets in the afternoon?" Ash, we'll see, son. We'll see. We'll see how it pans out. I mean, it's going to be one of them things that it's like we reverted earlier on with the price point. It's not meant for everyone, and
it's not.
Hopefully, it's bringing a new audience to Irish whiskey. It's definitely putting Irish whiskey in front of a new audience, and that's what it's all about. And hopefully, if somebody or if 10 of them go out and buy a bottle of Irish whiskey on the back of seeing an NFT, hey, was that a bad thing?
No, not a bad thing. So interesting to see how it goes. I did do some research just on Block Bar today to try and understand it a bit more and to find out who it's aimed at. And I think it gives us some introduction to perhaps who the audience might be in terms of what a distillery might look for. The founders say that Block Bar is introducing the younger demographic to luxury spirits and the older demographic to NFTs. More specifically, he says Block Bar targets 4 consumer groups: the collector who doesn't have a place to store their high-end wine and spirits, a person looking to diversify their investment portfolio, the crypto skeptic or person who wants to explore investing in crypto but feels safer having a physical asset, and 4th, the crypto expert who has made money through crypto and is looking for interesting ways to spend it. Now, none of those sounds like a drinker to me, but in any case, they're all people who could potentially buy this, create a halo effect for the other elements in the brand, for the other products downstream from it. Why wouldn't you do it? It's not for us, but why wouldn't you do it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Look, I think again, it'll be interesting to see where it goes. I have had a fair few phone calls about it and people asking me my thoughts on it. And I mean, ultimately, it's a one-of-one bottle of whiskey that's behind it. So even if you redeem the token and literally get your physical hands on a one-of-one bottle, I mean, what's that going to be worth in the years to come as an investment?
Yeah.
But can you imagine tasting something like that? I mean, if you were lucky enough to have crypto that increased to the value of something like that, and you could buy this fairly free.
Yeah.
What a taste! What as a whiskey fan, why would you not want to do that? I mean, again,
well, it's very disappointing to people who've had the rare chance in their life to taste Silent Distillery to now realize there's a better one out there. There's a rarer one out there after them spending all their money on their Silent Distillery.
Yes, Murray. Yes. Let's not talk about that. I don't. Yes, I would not comment on that for any reasons, for a multitude of reasons. I mean,
And he's not in any way involved in trading of whiskey himself.
yeah, absolutely not. No.
So look, I would say on NFTs and anything tied to whiskey and NFTs, buyer beware, do your due diligence research. There are many firms out there, third-party firms, who will offer all kinds of perceived benefits dressed up, covered up with the kind of the coat of an NFT or cryptocurrency attachments. Most that I've discovered have they're solutions to problems that don't exist, and they're just trying to capitalize on a technology because it exists, not because it helps actually achieve anything. Where in my opinion, you can find benefits is in if you have a platform that's trusted and that is maybe run by a established company with track record in this area in spirit sales and the like, is that they are using the technology to help with provenance, anti-fraud, storage, shipping. Then there can be benefits, but outside of that, I haven't seen the same benefits. I haven't seen wildly beneficial elements to some firms the way they're offering access, apart from maybe things like fractionalized access to a cask, but that's not, you don't need an NFT to do that. You can get that in other places too.
Again, just on someone that reading through some of the comments there, some people sort of saying, you know, when brands bring out an NFT, that's me, we're done, we're finished, I'm not buying from them anymore. I think that's a very sort of, I think that the brands themselves are just trying to stay, not relevant is the word, but just trying to get their products in front of a new audience. So I wouldn't be too harsh on any brand that's doing it. I mean, look, they're not diminishing it. I've seen commentary there from people, and I've seen other commentary during the week of, oh, basically it's an infinity bottle. I think it's a wee bit more special than that. I mean, something like this has had Kevin's DNA in it. It's got Brian's DNA in it. It's got Barry's. Yeah. I mean, look, it's just going to be a special product. It really is. I mean, one of one.
Yeah. I wouldn't diminish it. I wouldn't take away from it. Like
no.
Things like this. I remember when I was in London in 2019 for the launch of what was then the most expensive Irish whiskey in the world, which was J.J. Corrie's The Chosen, which just beat the Silent Distillery by a few months in terms of being released. And I remember that at £6,500, I think at the time, was considered. I mean, people. I mean, I'd say Louise got threats.
Lost their lives.
I'd say Louise got threats and phone calls and all kinds of messages over it, and it seemed ridiculous at the time. But you know what that did? It started a great conversation about what Irish whiskey can be, should be, is important that it is. How many of us have traveled through duty-free shops and airports around the world and marveled at the shrines built to Scotch. I'm wondering, where's Irish whiskey's piece? Oh, there's a shelf down the bottom for Jameson and Bushmills, you know. And Ireland has lost its place at travel retail and the highest shelves in Harrods and Fortnum and Mason and where have you. These kind of products help the entire category by coming out. They do. It's free advertising for the entire category.
Well, you said exactly that there. I mean, Harrods. I mean, who doesn't know the word Harrods? And for any Irish whiskey product to be standing there like the Silent Distillery was on their shelves, is that not something we should applaud and sing from the hymns? I mean, it's just, these things should be. I get frustrated.
We're a nation of begrudgers.
I get frustrated with people who knock products like that. Who knock products. They're 100%, not for everybody. They're just not for everybody. And that's. I mean, look.
Old man shouts at cloud. You know.
Yeah. That's it. Yeah. Absolutely.
The same people screaming at Lamborghinis driving past them. Ah.
Do you know something, Barry? And I mean, I've long maintained this. I've often one of the things that I love about an American audience, or love about the American people, is if they see somebody driving a Ferrari, most of the time they're saying, "Good on you, man. How did you do it? You know, hopefully I can get there too one day." Whereas an Irish fella will probably go over and kick it and say, "Look at that and start calling you names. They just don't wish people well. I mean, all I ever want is, like, for me, from my whiskey journey, and for one of my sole purposes of my business and everything that me and even you do together, is let's get Irish whiskey in as many people's hands as possible, because everybody wins. Nobody loses.
Nobody.
So, I mean, things like the 2 stacks, there's a market for that, where the dram and a can were $4, I believe.
Yeah, $4.
$4 to $130,000 bottle of whiskey that is one of one. I mean, there's a market for everything there.
100% there is, and more room for more innovation too.
Yeah.
God's sake, we're awful begrudgers.
Yeah.
What else do we want to talk about? Midleton Very Rare, or this Pinnacle Vintage?
I mean, it is one of the things that we get asked probably the most about. I mean, again, it is the product that people have, and I mean, I love. One of the things that we joke about with the name is Midleton Very Rare, and we have this joke in our office about, I think it's probably the worst misnomer in the world. I mean, Midleton Very Rare. It's not all that rare. When there's 60,000 bottles of it over a particular year. I don't know how many there is this year. I mean, I've seen all sorts of conspiracy theories of, I think there's only 5,000, and it'll be like the loaves and fishes type job. But we get people ringing us up who have no knowledge of whiskey, and their first question, I have a bottle of whiskey, and we nearly every conversation is the same when we joke about it. I have a bottle of whiskey. Okay. It's very rare. Okay. It's Midleton Very Rare. Okay. It's signed by the distiller. Okay. Yeah. It's got a number on it. And I mean, you're just going, yes, we know. And we're not trying to dismiss it. And I suppose there's an element of we nearly get blasé with it because we handle so many of them. But I mean, it is a special product. It has worked its way into the hearts of collectors. I mean, it's a never-ending thing as well. I mean, when do you stop? So it's at 40 bottles now. I think that's what you said. 40. 40th, this year will be 41, will it not? Because
this is the 40th vintage. 40th vintage. This one.
But you'll have 2 bottles. So you'll have 41 in the collection because you have 2 for 17.
Right. Yeah.
So 41 bottles of whiskey takes up quite a bit of space. It is.
Is this where you introduce your new storage offering? Is this where you say, and by the way, may I introduce you to my warehouse?
Yes, and you can buy an NFT for it as well, and that would be one of the things.
Proof that it's there.
It is one of the things that I know quite a few people that have collections. I mean, you can go in and you can see it in the Palace Bar. Willie has it up every year. Sonny Malloy's have it.
Yeah.
Searsons have them. There's quite a few places.
Searsons
Dublin Airport have it.
What would a full set go for now at auction if somebody wanted a full set, if you were lucky enough to list it?
The last set I sold privately was 70k.
70,000 euros.
70,000 euros. Yeah.
And I think we laughed collectively as a whiskey community maybe no more than 3 years ago at the price of Dublin Airport set, which was what, 50 or 60,000, I think.
At the time, we sold our first set at 36,000 and they had a set for 50,000. 45 actually it was first, and then they put it up to 50. I'm not convinced that set is for sale. That's in Irish Dublin Airport because, people have told me that they've made offers to buy it, and then they've been told, "Oh no, we can't sell that one." It's a thing. It is a sight to behold. The full set. I mean, it's gorgeous to see.
There's a romantic attachment to it for many people because of the vintages, because it marks births and marriages and celebrations and promotions and new houses and homes. It is something that people have shared with family members that maybe have passed. Maybe it was a family member that used to drink it. It was brought out from under the stairs for a special occasion. So there's kind of an emotional attachment. And I was thinking about it earlier today. if you think about all the brands that come out of Midleton today, the Redbreasts, the Powers, the Jamesons, none of those are historically of Midleton. They are of other places that found their way to their new home, and they've been well taken care of there. But Midleton Very Rare is a product of Midleton, and maybe one of the few tiebacks to the days of Cork Distilleries Company when there was a Midleton whiskey. And it's maybe one of the few through lines that goes all the way back to Cork Distilleries Company, which is this: is there anything more a piece of Cork than maybe a drop of Midleton Very Rare? Paddy?
Cork Distilleries on the front of it.
Yeah.
No, I suppose, look, it's probably one of the longest lasting continuous products out there, with a continuous SKU line that people are invested in and buying into every year. As you said, I mean, that was the thing, wasn't it? That every year, people bought it as thank yous. I mean, one of the 88s that we sold for quite some money was a doctor's. Unfortunately, the doctor had passed away, but his family had known the story that he was given this bottle as a thank you for helping a person out or saving a person's life or whatever the case may be. And he was given this bottle as a thank you. And I mean, that's the sort of prestige that with which it was held. I mean, it's retirement gifts. I mean, that's the sort of, again, prestige. It's not just your regular run-of-the-mill bottle of whiskey.
No.
It was something special. People got them engraved. I mean, they got the wooden boxes engraved with names and everything else on it. So look, it's been a lot of things to a lot of people, and luckily enough, it's continuing on. And I'm delighted to see that they have changed the packaging, and it shows a commitment to the future of the product, that they're going to continue it, that they've invested in this, that it is going to be something that they're going to continue for many years to come.
A quick question for you before I want to talk about the whiskey bus for 2 minutes before we let you go. The question came in about from the new distilleries, what are the most sought after bottles currently that you're seeing from new distilleries coming into the auction?
It swings and roundabouts. I mean, literally month on month, it varies. I mean, Cologne went through a huge a growth there for a while. I mean, everybody wanted a bottle of Cologne, and every time something new came out for Cologne, it went into auction and it went skyrocket. Just the one thing that I know about auctions is that now at this stage is there's nothing that I know about auctions, because every month that I think that I know something, it just gets blown clean out of the water. Titanic. I mean, not if you had sat me down and said, here's a product that's going to come out that's just going to be just wanted by everybody, and I'm going, right. But it did. It just went bananas.
I bought a bottle from you.
Everybody did, I think, at that stage. And again, look, it's one of the things that gets thrown about the most. Even, and I'm sure it's going to happen with Midleton. I noticed that there's a couple of bottles up on another auction platform, and people are saying about the price, and I'm going, well, I can still find it for retail, and I'm going, you have no idea. We were selling Titanic at £250 a pop, and you could buy it in the shop for €60 a pop.
Yeah,
one has got nothing to do with the other.
No.
Literally nothing to do with it at all. There's no correlation between the two at all. People just decide that they want a product, and they're going to chase after it. And
there's a huge convenience factor to what you do too, because no matter where I am in the world, most places anyway, I can sit on my couch with my iPad and make a purchase, and you'll find a way to get it to me legally, of course. And it'll, like, that's extraordinary, like, in the sense of these aren't retail buyers. They're just people who just want the thing, like you said. Just give it to me.
And again, we've loads of examples, even in the same auction, where you'll have one bottle at one price and another bottle considerably less. There's an element of tunnel vision or auction fever. People just get, I mean, I've spoken to so many people about it, and you're sort of going, you don't want to point it out. And the last thing I want to do when somebody buys something for a price is tell them, were you off your head? Why did you buy that at that price? Because
shake their hand. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
They're delighted with what they've got. I'm delighted because it's sold. The seller's delighted because he's getting a price. but it seems to be everybody else that gets upset about it. So I sort of go, well, look,
it's almost like we shouldn't listen to the peanut gallery. Just leave them be.
Yeah, let it on. But is it any one thing, Barry? No, I don't think there's any one new brand. I mean, look, Bushmills last month. I mean, one of the most long-established brands out there. One of their new Causeway collections, Burgundy for Australia, came out, hit the market, and people lost their proverbials over it, and it went €1,300 or something like that.
Yeah,
the Chinese releases from Bushmills again seems to do exceptionally well every month. Redbreast, I mean, people are still looking for the PX casks. Manual Love is always something that goes well every month. And then look, we can't ignore Midleton. I mean, you can't ignore the monster.
And we're going to Midleton. Don't look now, but there's a big bus heading towards us on the screen. The deposit requests have been sent out for the whiskey bus. Most of you have already paid your deposit. If you haven't yet, go check your emails and let us know if you're able to make those payments in the next few days for the whiskey bus. We've been working away, getting rooms organized and finalizing and working through more details. And we'll have an email out to you when we have more information. But for now, it's just at the deposit stage. But hopefully we'll either have the same bus or the same driver again in Nigel this year.
We definitely have. Well, they've said to me that Nigel's excited to do it again because he enjoyed it so much last year. He thought we were a unique group, I think was the term that they used.
Yeah, very unique.
It has. We may get the same bus, or we may get another one. There's a lot of work been going on behind the scenes, Barry. And again, look, I'm putting it out there as well. You know, there's been a lot of people who sort of were disappointed that they didn't make the list for this one. Don't worry, I'm not stopping, and Barry's not stopping, and we're ploughing ahead with plans for more of these madcap ideas and seeing what other innovative ways we can get people to drink in motion. I think that's drinks in motion. Have we thought about that as a project?
Just bought the domain name there while you said it.
Okay, thanks very much. So yeah, I think that's we'll try and come up with every possible connotation. We done the train last year. We done the bus. Go-karts, I'm trying to work out how people can steer safely. And Ger Garland running alongside them, trying to pour into their glasses. They're scooting around, and your pit stop takes on a whole new meaning as well. So look, there's plenty of different ways we can do these things. And if all else fails, it'll be a bit of crack.
It'll be a bit of crack. We'll have a bit of crack. We'll be close to whiskey at most points during the trip, so we'll have medicine when we need it.
Just something that I haven't really spoken to you privately about this. Do I start buying Lucozade and water now to stockpile it, or what's the plan? That
would be helpful. I think we should corner the Lucozade market. Get in on that now, because prices have gone through the roof, like tomatoes and eggs and all kinds. We want to get in the Lucozade market early.
Right, and anybody that isn't aware, it's like, how would you describe Lucozade? Is Lucozade available in the US?
No, it's not. It's like a sparkling energy drink, but it's like red lemonade meets orange.
It's just, I mean,
it's fantastic. Yeah,
it's fantastic. Yeah. I mean, it was a cure-all when you were young. I mean, do you remember the old bottles that red would have the yellow cellophane on it?
The glass bottles, yeah.
I mean,
the hospitals. They cure a broken leg.
Absolutely. That's it. I've fixed many things with Lucozade.
A lot of caffeine in them, laced with caffeine.
So I think I calculated it out one time. A standard, 250 ml bottles. I think there was 13 teaspoons of sugar in it.
We'll have people jumping around the bus this year after a
wired to the just moon. I mean, if it's not the alcohol that's got them, it'll be the sugar in Lucozade and protein bars. So we'll all be wired to the moon.
We'll be ready for it. We'll be ready.
Yeah, exactly. there's loads going on, and as I said, we've been busy in the background trying to make sure it'll all go.
It'll be a good time. It'll be a great time. We'll have a crack with it.
Yeah.
And we've started another Facebook group to talk about it called Irish Whiskey Experiences. Yes, we have a Facebook group.
Is this your 12th one this week?
Yeah, I thought just surprise people every day with a new Facebook group, and they'll never guess what you're going to do next. Keep people guessing. Don't be predictable.
No.
So join all those groups. Just join Irish Whiskey Experiences. Let me see. Steve had a good point there. Will you ever click the like button on the video if you're watching this? You're watching it, which means there's a like button under it. So just click the like button. It means more people see our videos going forward, and that's all we want to happen. That way more people see and love Irish whiskey. So we covered the whiskey bus, we covered NFTs, we talked about packaging broadly. I mean, you could talk for hours about it, but it just gets a bit tiresome, I think, just going to talk about cardboard and packaging and,
I think where some of the real innovations have been in the bottles. I mean, look at last year we had the Limavady on the bus itself. I mean, even how true they wanted to be to a product, where they had like the occlusions, the little air bubbles in the glass itself to mimic the old legacy bottles. Lost Irish, Tim Herlihy, their bottle. I mean, it's a lovely creative bottle. There's loads out there, Barry. I mean, it really is. I mean, and I think that's not saying that's where the next battle's going to be fought, but I mean, that's what they're all doing now. They've got to catch your eye on the shelf. Teeling with the black pits, the pure black bottle. I mean, it's lovely. It's a pretty bottle. Brendan's bottles are nearly unique to Brendan in Cologne. They've got little bottles. There's so many out there. Silky with the tall bottles. I mean, they're all doing their own thing. One of the things that I do like about the Midleton, the new when they changed in 2017, was to bring into line the premium products, so the single cask projects that they had out there with the likes of Adair Manor and all that. Yeah, that the bottle was a similarity, and including in the silent distillery, and you can see it in the Pinnacle as well in the new NFT. That cleft in the front of it. Yes, it's right the way through all their product line as well.
And I read, I think it was on their the company that designed this. I think is it nude brand design. I can't remember, but I remember reading an early press release back when this was released in 2017 from the brand agency saying that this bottle had been designed to reflect Ireland's literary history, in that the bottle was designed to look like an inkwell, and that this piece here was designed to look like the nib of a pen.
Oh, I thought it was a throwback to Barry Crockett and the dimple in his chin. No, it's not that. No,
he hates the new release every year. He's like, oh no, another reminder.
And his auntie used to come up and go, look at your wee cheeks on you. That's the sort of thing. I thought that's what it was.
More likely the nib of a pen than Barry.
All right, okay. So it's not. So Max, you can imagine Max coming up and going, look at the wee cheeks.
Indeed, a lovely little dimple. Well, okay. So I mean, people like it. So you can call it little dimple or nib of a pen, whatever you like. And folks saying there's a glass that has the same. Yeah, the Midleton Very Rare glass has the same little indentation on it. The 2023, by the way, folks, I'm really enjoying it. I've had quite a few sips of it now over the course of the evening, just small little sips to get into it. And it is a lovely, well-rounded whiskey. The 2022 is a light whiskey, more floral, more delicate. 2023 brings back a little bit of that heavy spice from the pot, which rounds it out nicely. It just feels like it gives it more of a robust, a more robust roundness, if that's even a description.
Tyrone wanted to know about the etiquette of being on the bus.
The etiquette
of being on the bus. Tyrone, I'm not even going to know.
Act like a human and respect the man and woman beside you.
Well, but he was more about the bathroom on the bus as to what.
Like what you can and can't do in the bus.
Yes, I look again. Yeah, no.
The bus we've done the same this year that we did last year, was to try and reduce the journeys. Like, it's called the whiskey bus, but there's no more time spent in that bus than there is spent in the spaceship. Like, we're not in it that long. Like, we're at the most maybe 2 hours at a time. So use the hotel facilities maybe before getting on the bus.
Yeah.
And use the bus in a pinch.
Don't pinch. No pinching. Look, it's yes, we have facilities on the bus, but anyway, not too much Lucozade. That's the key to it all. And protein bars. See, Cheryl's aware of it there. Protein bars. That's what it all. Lucozade is godsend according to Keane. It is. It has saved people's lives. We need some Scottish iron brew. Well, I'm sure you'll find that in Scotland.
Yeah, go off to Scotland now if you're interested in those Scots.
Yeah, exactly. Back in the book program,
no pinching.
Mix it with Jameson orange. Ooh.
Mix what with Jameson orange?
Lucozade.
Yeah, you could, yeah. Like a hard Lucozade you'd make it into. Yeah,
I'd be up for that.
Yeah.
Cheryl Longfield again. Cheryl seems to be convinced of this iron brew thing. I mean, you have to say it with a Scottish accent. Iron brew.
We should be off to Scotland, Cheryl, after the Irish trip. So.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's it. Waterford bottles are fantastic. Yeah, I mean, there's again. We were just on the packaging thing.
Them there.
The blue bottle, but not only the blue bottle, the stopper, Barry.
This is one of my favorite bottles, the peated one. Like, it's beautiful.
Yeah, it's gorgeous, and again, I mean, they stand out on the shelf. I mean, and I'm speaking from experience. The glass stopper, I think it's gorgeous. I really do think it's gorgeous. The cardboard packaging that came with the early Waterfords was poor. I think would be a delicate way of saying it.
Yeah.
The bottoms used to fall out of them. I mean, we used to literally have to hold them with kid gloves in the office, because you'd hold it up and next time, woof, come out through the bottom of the box. There was no consistency of color. There was no. I mean, look, these are all the challenges that a brand faces when they're bringing a new product to market and trying to sort of catch people's eyes as well. You know.
The Greg has a good point there. We've just gone almost an hour and a half without mentioning peat, which is almost a crime now at this stage. Thank you for reminding us, Greg.
You've changed, man. Man, you've changed. And actually, I want to bring something to people's attention. It was Whiskey Bus 1 that the deterioration of you began.
You mean the opening of my mind began
No.
Other flavors.
No, I meant deterioration, Barry. I absolutely meant deterioration. I mean,
to deteriorate, you'd have to start with something.
I think there's photographic evidence of you sitting for a man that didn't drink peated whiskey in the Temple Bar whiskey shop drinking an Octomore.
Correct.
With Dave Stewart, I believe.
You got to go all in. When you're in, you're in. That's the Chandler way.
That's like, I can't swim, but I'm going to do a bit of cliff diving this morning.
It's kind of like, well, feck it, how hard can it be kind of thing.
That is literally I have that engraved on my credit card. I literally have that engraved on my credit card. How hard can it be?
What's the phrase? My toxic trait is thinking I could do that.
Yeah. So your deterioration began on Whiskey Bus 1, and you are now a fully fledged member of the Scotch Malt Whiskey Society.
I am not. I won't be giving my money outside of Ireland. I'll be keeping it in Ireland, but I am supporting the peat makers and the peated malt and makers in Ireland over the past few months. And it reminds me to remind everybody that we're having a tasting of our peated single malt, Short Cross single malt. I know many of you have purchased this. Hold judgment. We're going to taste this together. Some of you have opened your bottles already, but I want to go through this with ice, with water, with chocolate, and talk to you about it on March 2nd. That's Thursday evening. We're going to have a tasting of this with the makers, David and Fiona Boyd Armstrong. Anthony has tried this. What's your review?
I am I think impressed, beyond impressed. How good it is. I mean, I wasn't lucky enough Strangely enough, on the whiskey bus, I wasn't about. I was away doing other things. I do have a couple of businesses to run to try and keep the bills being paid and the lights on. We couldn't get over it, and we opened it in the office. So Sinead, Robert, Olivia, Niall, myself, we all tasted it in the morning. Really, really impressed. How it changes with water is a revelation. Yeah. There's, again, I think this alludes back to the question that we got asked early in the evening about, the high-priced bottles or the 20-year-old whiskey. That whiskey that you have there will hold its own with bottles considerably more expensive, and it is well done. I mean, look, well done.
I didn't make the stuff, but cheers. Your feedback is very important. I'm going to pour a drop of it now.
We haven't sold the bottle yet. There's the thing, Barry. That'll you've crossed the Rubicon then when you've
on the auction side
been sold in Irish whiskey auctions.
All of our other bottles, well, except the Cliffs of Moher never ended up with you.
Cliffs of Moher, no.
The Story has turned up a few times. Got some good money there in the past. The Crack, they all beat original retail prices.
Yeah. Well, it's an endorsement of you. It's an endorsement of the club. I mean, when
most people drink them.
Yeah.
They open them.
And people, and again, the great thing for you is I've spoken to a few of the people that have bought them on the secondary market, and they're usually, I've already drank the one I've had, so there's no wrong with that.
So it's still available, and it's a 6-year, 10-month-old single malt made with peated malt, aged for 6 years and 10 months in one single cask, which was a French oak cask. European oak previously contained cognac and orange liqueur. Not the sweetness associated with Grand Marnier, but all of the orange citrus kind of bitters and the liqueur aspect of a Grand Marnier, which gives an extraordinary note to this: citrus, dark chocolate, milk chocolate, cream, the gamut. And again, it takes water at 66% ABV, but we've managed to get this to market for $99, and it's still we've got about 30 bottles left out of 300, which is great. We've gone through so many, so fair play to everybody who's invested in the peat. And I expect next few weeks they'll be gone once we go through the tasting. It's really I'm going to pick up another few bottles for myself just to have it, because once it's gone and it won't be back. So if you want it, storiesandsips.com.
The 66% ABV is, I think it was a great thing to do, because you get to taste it at its rawest, and that's not, I don't mean that as a slight against it, but you get to taste it as David, I think, alluded to at the time, was as the distillers. What do you refer to it as, the distillers?
It's the distillers proof. Yeah.
You then get to play with it yourself and find where your happy medium in it is. Initially, when my first drink of it was, you knew you were drinking something that was high in the ABV scale.
Yeah.
But you can tinker with it. You can dial it into where you want it to be, and then it starts to open up. And again, another one of these quick whiskies that just, the longer you let it sit. And I mean, I went back to the glass. I think it was sitting on my desk after we done it. Not that I condone drinking during the day, but this is what happens in my office at time to time. But it was sitting on my desk, and I went back to it later on, and I picked it up and had a nose of it, and it was the gift that kept on giving. So really, really good. Tyrone asked earlier on about what was the distillery. It's the Radaman Estate. A beautiful setting. Again, a testament to Irish people or Irish whiskey enthusiasts putting their money where their mouth is and literally building their dream and building their distillery on a location.
A few of you here in the audience were Rick, for example, Cheryl, I see Caroline, you were all there. Dee, I think, you were all there on the last day when we tasted this. So this is the first manifestation of the whiskey bus. It brought something to life because of the whiskey bus. Now, we laid down casks at Shorecross. They gave us a cask of whiskey. They put down a cask, filled a cask for us. Bushmills filled a cask for us, and those we'll do interesting things with those in time. But this whiskey is the first thing we've brought out publicly to the club because of the whiskey bus. And it was an idea that came out of that, a tasting we did there. And now look, 6 months, not even yet, maybe just 5 months later, it's in our hands, which is fantastic. So I think all these things we're doing, these events, these experiences, they're going to compound over time to connect with each other and lead to more interesting things we'll do. And God knows we'll get that castle eventually, or we'll never hear the end of it. So it'll all come together. It'll all come together. We'll stick your pub into the castle.
We're sleeping in the castle, but not suffice.
We could do it a good rest, to be fair.
I might be sleeping in the castle myself after it again. I think, look, there's been loads covered tonight. I think we've explained, hopefully, the NFT to people, that they understand what it is. If they have that disposable income or maybe a load of Ethereum, I mean, look, the chance to own a one of one is something spectacular. If you don't, go and buy a bottle of Midleton 2023. I mean, it's not a one of one, but it's a fairly unique experience. And then you have 300 bottles of the short cross, Barry, am I correct?
There were 300 launched, 30 left.
So I mean, that's actually, Barry, so should you call it the Stories and Sips Very Rare?
The hyper rare. Near mythical would be a phrase that I'd have to maybe perhaps.
There's only 300 of them. And I mean, that alludes to one of the questions we get asked most about what makes a bottle collectible. And in my eyes, I mean, the first tick box is, has it got a number on the front of it?
Yeah.
So if it's one of 300, and I do believe you found the lucky owner of number one.
Well, I think if you're I know you know who you are in the audience here tonight, but so we offered up that if somebody got bottle number one, because I'm not emotionally attached to bottle number one, I think the club, whoever's lucky enough to order it, gets it, great. It's not, the whiskey's all the same, right? I don't need to have the number ones myself. So I suggest if somebody gets number one, congratulations. If you open it, I'll give you all your money back just to celebrate. You got it, you were lucky, fair play for opening a bottle, whiskey's for drinking kind of thing. And lots of folks uploaded pictures that they had photoshopped, that they'd added masking tape to, that they put their finger over certain numbers to say, oh, I got number one. Joking, of course. But we have one gentleman who reckons he has number one, and I can't tell from the photograph if it's photoshopped or not. Sir, you need to message me privately so we can have a conversation. And if it is number one...
You genuinely don't know?
I should have actually made note when we shipped number one who it went to. But that would require organization, and we forgot about that bit. I thought, geez, that would have been a great thing to do. Yeah, can you imagine?
Note to self.
Yeah. These imagine you'd almost think it's my first time trying to run a whiskey business.
Welcome to the world. Look, I think it is a fantastic, and again, it shows great engagement from the community out there. I mean, the guys, I've seen lots of bottles posted. Lots of bottles being opened. It's great that you've only 30 of them left. What's next, Barry? I mean, you're bound to have something else up your sleeve. I'm sure there is. We're
evaluating things at the moment. We did tease.
So you're drinking whiskey, Barry. That's nothing new.
There will be whiskey. We did tease that there'll be whiskey. I did tease a picture at Killowen Distillery, which indicated us doing something together, and we will be doing a release this year with Killowen Distillery of their own whiskey in a unique cask, which I'm not going to share all the details yet. I don't think it's going to be our next release. There's another one we're seeing if economically it all works and everything checks out for us on another project that we'll do first. And if we don't do that, we'll go with Killowen next. So it'll be Killowen in the next 4 months, but another one between now and then, I think. So those are the ones that are almost there.
Have you ever, and I'm quizzing you now on behalf of everybody else, have you given any consideration as to, is it a monthly and bi-monthly, an annual, or what sort of, I mean, again, I know that you have had conversations with other brands, so it's great that the pipeline is there. Look, and I think any brands would be lucky to do business with you and to get involved. But I mean, I think Is it? Have you put a number on this, or have you sort of said, or have you a map in your head?
Like how many whiskeys we do a year?
Yep.
I've said 8 this year, but it's depending. Like I think I've got 8 brands that are in the pipeline, but I don't think it'll be completely up to me. And I think the timings are just constantly moving goalposts. Whereas things that I thought we'd be on to almost whiskey number 3 by now, to be honest, for the year. But it's just the timelines just aren't maybe as reasonable on my side as maybe distilleries and brands would like. And they've got things that pop up and get in the way and what have you. So if we did 4 to 6 this year, it would be fantastic. I think we'll definitely get 4 whiskeys done. If we got 6, great. I'd love to do 8, but I'm also conscious that, look, not everyone wants to buy a bottle of whiskey every 6 weeks or a new bottle, and that's fine too. But I think we'll try and run the gamut of everything from the styles of whiskey. We've not yet done a blend. That's something that we haven't done yet. We've had single grains. We've had all the singles. We haven't done a very aged whiskey yet. Some rare casks that we might be able to get hold of. We haven't done one of those. So there's lots of opportunity out there. There's interesting distilleries that'll do a short run for us. Others that'll do a bigger run. I think the sky's the limit.
But you said there you haven't done a blend yet. But you know the way there's like Midleton Very Rare Barry Crockett?
Midleton Very Rare Barry Chandler.
Well, you know.
Listen.
I'm not comparing you to him. He was a nice fella, but I mean,
I don't have the dimple. I'd love at some point for us to be able to do a cask with Midleton, but we are, let's be honest, the smallest fish in the biggest pond when it comes to all things they have to deal with on the daily basis. And I doubt the distillery comes to a standstill when you or I, much as we think they might, when we walk in the gates. All tools aren't downed to brush the ground with brushes for us to walk in. And although, do you get that treatment? Do you?
Well,
I mean, they take care of it. They're very nice to us. Like, they're very nice people.
You know, I mean,
well, you'd be
for me to like. I mean,
you do big money. You got auction money.
No, yeah, no, I did. No, strange enough, they don't even know my name actually, but that's neither here nor there.
There's Arnold. How are you, Arnold? How are you getting on?
I usually just get asked, "Is Katie not with you now? Whatever your name is Katie not with you?" So like, I'm all right. I get known as. I'm here when people ask me about the pub. I just go, "I'm just married to the boss. I know nothing." Yeah, look, I think your club is cracking. Barry bottles on offer should be based upon the number of club members.
I want to address that one.
Doesn't get overwhelmed.
So, one of the challenges of a whiskey club that's run by one individual, which is me, and not the Scotch Malt Whisky Society, which is a team of about 60 people, is a publicly traded company in the stock exchange, is that there are upfront costs with things we do. And as much as we want to work with certain distilleries, if we want to release a whiskey, we have to pay them upfront in some cases. And that could require floating significant amounts that just can't be put at risk, that are used to run the club, to pay our contributors, pay our hosting costs, things like that. So we have to balance the risk of sometimes upsetting people where they can't get hold of everything against the danger of us being stuck. And by us, I mean me personally being stuck with $50,000 tied into a cask or into a purchase or into something that just doesn't move for a year when we can do nothing with that money. That's something we have to work with. So the Cliffs of Moher was a great example. We only had 70 bottles of each of the 3, so 210 people could get hold of it. We have many more members than that, but the way we worked it, like we're kind of constantly evaluating and analyzing the purchase trends based on number of members, based on styles of whiskey, based on engagement on events. So I'm all the time kind of doing yield management to try and figure out how many of a certain thing will sell when it comes out, and then trying to base our purchases on that. The Cliffs of Moher was a good example. More than 210 members, and I think we had 170 people wanted the whiskey. So not everyone wanted the whiskey. So the club, we've got people who join the club just to watch our videos. We've got people who join the club just for the quarterly tasting kits. Not everybody wants the full bottle all the time. So there's something there for everyone, I think. And I think we'll never get it like right bang on the nose. So I think right now we're in the range of doing 300 bottle releases. I'm kind of comfortable in there at a certain price point. not comfortable in there at a super high price point yet, but we're kind of all the time, I think, gauging, pulling back as needed to see where we get. So bit of risk management on my side, really, just to keep the train going.
We were lucky enough. I mean, you talked about the investment on your behalf into this. I mean, just to give people a perspective, I mean, I joked about the Midleton Barry Chandler edition, but we were lucky enough to taste on Whiskey Bus 1 a 25-year-old pot still when we were in Smithfield with Ger Garland. He repeated to us that cask was €100,000 to buy. So that's the sort of investment that Barry would have to put his hand in his pocket to pony up. And it is, look, as with any business, I mean, I know me only too well myself, it's just always that jump. It's the leap of faith of yes, you have engagement. Yes, you have people who are interested in what you want to do and what you want to talk about. And your interests are aligned in the whiskey itself. But €100,000, €50,000, €20,000 is a huge gamble when you just don't know. And that's what it comes down to.
And we have to support the distilleries too. Like we don't do this. I mean, one of the things with the club early on was we wanted to give a platform and a voice to smaller brands as well, to be able to get to market and be able for us to try things they would normally get. Midleton is a fantastic distillery, and I feel emotional about it. I love what they do. I grew up near it.
That's the Cork thing in there. I mean,
well, don't worry about that now. Don't worry about that. But it's, first of all, I don't know how much Midleton. We need Midleton more than they need us now at the moment, I'd say, in the sense of like we're not high on their radar because it's what's 200 bottles or 300 bottles going to do for them. But we will get there, I think, eventually. But I don't want to get there too soon because I want us to grow the club the right way. I think we've done nice things so far. We've been super lucky with the very great whiskeys we've released. Every whiskey has been a home run because of the distillers and the blenders and the bottlers that make it. So I think we should just keep stair-stepping our way up. We don't want to peak too soon. We don't want to peak too soon.
No,
I don't think.
That's what. But like, as I say, I think you're doing well. I think for what my opinion is worth in anything these days, I think what you've done so far is to be applauded, and
I appreciate that.
Going. You know, I'm happy to row in behind you and help you in any way, shape, or form I can.
I'll send you up an application form for membership, so that'll be with you there.
No, let's not get carried away by things. You know? Well, actually, do I get 25% discount on my Irish whiskey auction shipping? Then if I do,
you do, yeah. I'll discuss that with myself and the man that offered me that at some point.
Yeah, exactly. Look, I'm it's getting past my bedtime.
One away. We'll let you go.
For me, so thanks for tonight.
Thank you.
I always enjoy having a bit of crack with you and seeing the engagement from everybody and the positive comments. Look, I mean, everybody's, you know, they're all in with it, and it's great to see it as well. So
you're a gent, and I always enjoy our time chatting, and looking forward to our planning of the Whiskey Bus over the next few weeks again. And we'll come back and talk about it more in a few weeks again together.
No doubt. Yeah, you'll wheel me out. I'm like a performing chimp. Just wheel me out.
I told you, there's a standing invitation for you to join this. Nobody else, just you.
Yeah.
No, right.
Cheers, Barry.
Say hi to Katie.
Good night, everybody. Cheers.
Talk to you later. Sláinte. He's away. And go pour another drop of the short cross. Thanks to Anthony, one of the most knowledgeable people you'll ever find in Irish whiskey. Lucky to have him. So a reminder, we're going to do tasting this on March 2nd with David Boyd Armstrong, Fiona Boyd Armstrong, Irish peated single malt whiskey. We'll be tasting it together, 7 p.m. Eastern. The links are on the website on storiesandships.com. Go to register for our event. Even if you don't have the bottle of whiskey, go register anyway and join in and maybe learn all about its production, how it was made. I want to talk about something else. I want to talk about the event that's coming up after that, which is the next day. Registration opens for something else that we're doing. That I teased during the week, and that is our Napo Castle tasting. We have a month-long collaboration going with Napo Castle. That month-long collaboration involves 3 a series of 3 small documentary videos being shared out that I videoed and filmed at the castle late last year. And those are going out every Friday. It started last Friday on that boat Castle channels and on our channels, just sharing the history of the castle, the founder of Napo Castle whiskey and the brand, Mark Edwin Andrews, his story, and his wife Lavone, the story of their whiskey at Napo Castle. Here is 1951 Napo Castle. So at our tasting that's taking place on March 27th, we're going to taste all 3 expressions in the single malt series kit that is 12, 14, and 16 years of age. So these are available to our club members. We're going to ship these out to you. Registration for it opens on Friday. And in addition to that, 70 lucky club members are going to get to taste Napo Castle 1951. I have 3 bottles of this. These bottles are worth thousands and thousands. They're about to be worth a lot more because there's a handful of them about to be re-released at a significant price point. But we are cracking open 3 of them. And we're going to include 30 milliliter, just about 1 ounce measures in 70 different kits. We'll do a lottery. So if there's more than 70 people, it'll just be a lottery system. If only 70 people want to do our tasting, then you'll all get a sample. I wish I had more, but it is one of the rarest whiskeys on earth. And there are, this is from 1951, distilled in the old B. Daly distillery. It's a pot still whiskey, and it is a rarity, 36 years aged in nothing but sherry casks. In 2 weeks' time, this bottle will be empty, as will the other 2 bottles, because they'll have all been repackaged into miniature bottles that'll end up in 70 lucky club members tasting kits. The registration opens on Friday, and you'll get an email for it when it goes live. It's going to be a big event. It's a big one, and really lucky to have Dave McCabe, the blender from Midleton Distillery, join us. Dave's name is on Dream Casks and Redbreast bottles alongside Billy Lighton. Dave is a knowledge on distillation and blending, and he's going to share with us the production methods for a sensorial tasting of Napo Castle. And I'll share the history of the brand, the history of the family, what they did with the castle, where they are today, what happened to it, etc. We'll have a great event on March 27th. And I may, if I'm lucky, I'll know via an email tomorrow, I may have another announcement that some more of you who aren't lucky enough to get hold of a sample of 1951, we might be able to get some others of you a sample of something else special. I don't know if we'll have something for everyone, but we'll definitely have the tasting kit with the 3 whiskies for as many people as register. And then after that, we're going to try and get as many samples into your kits as possible so that we have a very unique experience. Imagine this was distilled 72 years ago, 1951, aged for 36 years, bottled in 1987. All of that time spent in a sherry cask. It's really an extraordinary whiskey. 7 p.m. Eastern will be the time on May 27th. I tasted this in Napo Castle. It was quite a surreal moment. You'll see it on video number 3 that comes out on the 10th of March. And it was a very surreal experience, because we were waiting. We had done filming there for 2 days in the castle, and we were waiting for the final scenes to be shot, which was a tasting of 1951. But the courier hadn't picked up the bottles in time, and we had no 1951. The film crew was there. I was there. We were due to wrap up. The castle needed the castle back for a wedding that was coming in, and we managed to somehow get another courier to bring this bottle down from Dublin. And the last kind of 45 minutes of our time in the castle, they brought it up the stairs, this bottle of 1951, put it down on the table, and 10 minutes later we cracked it open, and live on camera. I mean, you'll see it on the video. We opened the 1951, in other words, sealed since 1987. We opened it back up in 2022 and immediately restarted its story. You know, it had been sleeping soundly in the casks, sleeping in the bottle. Now we brought a bit of life back to it. That whole moment is captured that video in number 3. And you see me tasting it there live in the castle. It's very surreal and almost a touch emotional, because you think of the history that's gone into the making of that whiskey, how many people are involved in it, how many generations of people were involved, and to sip it there. So I wanted to get as many of you samples as possible. So thanks to Irish Distillers for giving a couple of bottles. I'm taking this off my own shelf and cracking it open for you and throwing it into the mix as well, so that as many people as possible can taste this 1951. I think it'll be a special night, and I hope you all tune in. If you don't opt for a tasting kit, still tune in. The event is open to all of our club members. So that's happening on May 27th. And I mentioned earlier, if you were tuned in earlier, I mentioned something else that we're adding to the website tomorrow. So for those of you who are club members, we try and bring as many both interviews and behind the scenes access events kind of virtually and in person where possible, but we try and connect you with the people and the places of Irish whiskey where possible. We have been behind the scenes working on a behind the scenes series. Mark McLaughlin, who's been on the show a few times, who's also the director of Irish Whiskey at the Dead Rabbit, has been very ably conducting interviews with interesting people doing interesting things in the world of Irish whiskey for short 20 to 30 minute interviews. So think of it almost like a podcast video style that's available to you as a club member. The first one drops tomorrow and it's called The Business of Dram in a Can. And it's Mark talking to Shane McCarthy from Two Stacks Irish Whiskey. The business of getting this to market is extraordinary and I think you'll enjoy it. It'll be available on our website and storiesandsips.com. The next one after that will be with Dahi O'Connell, talking about how Dahi starting a whiskey bonding business, how he selected casks and how he went to find casks as somebody who didn't have a whiskey business, was just starting out. Really interesting story. So I'll bring more of those to you. You'll probably get one of those every week dropping on the website. So a little bit of added value there, hopefully, for your membership of the Stories and Sips Whiskey Club. Again, membership is open to people all over the world, Ireland, UK, US, Europe. We typically host our live events at 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time in the United States, which is midnight Irish time. But all of our bottlings, our club tastings, all of our kits are available to you no matter where you are. They're shipped from our Irish retailers at the moment, and we'll get them to you. So we'd love to see more people join over the coming months. It'll allow us to maybe invest in more casks and different offerings for you. But I'm liking the trajectory of where things are going and the engagement that we're getting and the distilleries that want to work with us. So tune in for that Dram in a Can discussion tomorrow. Greg says the club content is incredible. Thanks, Greg. I really appreciate that. And what else do we have to talk about? There was something else I was going to mention. Trying to organize another in-person tasting in the United States in May 5th and 6th, I think we're aiming for. Don't book any flights, don't book any hotels until we confirm it. But New York again, East Coast, New York. I've got an event myself there on May 4th, so I'm going to be in the city. So we will try and get some events in the Dead Rabbit upstairs where we were for our last tasting. We will take over the top floor again, all going to plan for tasting either on May 5th or May 6th, or maybe both. We'll see how we go with our discussions with whiskey brands. And we're continuing to plan the whiskey bus, as you know, and a couple of other experiences that we're working on as well at the moment. I'm going to put it here. So one of I forgot to mention it earlier, a couple of you put it in the comments that our Facebook group, Irish Whiskey Fans of America, is approaching 10,000 members, which is a great milestone for us. It has grown by about 9,000 members in about 18 months, which is extraordinary. So thank you to everyone who's part of our Irish Whiskey Fans of America Facebook group. Maybe the kindest, most helpful whiskey community I've ever been a part of. And I'm very thankful to it, to all of you to be for being part of it. We're going to do something to celebrate the 10,000 members when that happens. I expect it to be in the next few weeks. I asked you for suggestions in the group. What should we do? I asked for outrageous suggestions. You didn't disappoint. Buy a castle, give everyone a bottle of whiskey, and find a 10,000-month-old whiskey, and on. Buy a pub, have life-size selfies of me made that you would sign, that I would sign, and you would put in your whiskey cabinet beside your whiskey, like to frighten children and visitors to the house, and all kinds of ideas. We'll do something probably around a virtual event. Somebody had suggested breaking a world record. Could we do something like that? I explored, I looked into it. I contacted the Guinness Book of Records. The largest online toast verified by the Guinness Book of Records is only 380 people. And I thought, we can get more than 380 people on a live toast. But here's the problem. To get Guinness Book of Records to verify it, to authenticate it, starts at £6,000 and goes up to about £20,000, which is about $12,000 up to $40,000. I don't know that that's worth it or a good use of $12,000, honestly, to get a Guinness World Record. But that's a nice idea. If somebody wants to say, I'll give you $12,000 just to break that record, fine, get in touch. But otherwise, I think it'll be something along the lines of, we'll do a live event, we'll bring on some guests, maybe some musicians, and we'll have a bit of a party. We'll do a thing like this. We'll do a live stream, and we'll have maybe get a session going, bring on some fun guests from our 10,000 members worth of years that we've been going, which is about 3 years. So I think that'll be good. It's 10,000 sips of whiskey. Ohio tour. We're planning, actually have a call tomorrow with our Ohio teams. So we've got the Festival of Midleton Whiskies we've run for the last 2 years in Ohio, in Cleveland, Ohio. And this year we're aiming for a third year. It's a fundraising event to taste great whiskies. We've tasted Silent Distillery Chapter 2 and Chapter 3. And this year we're going to try and taste Chapter 4. And we're actually going to try and hit 2 more cities, Columbus and Cincinnati, in addition to Cleveland. So have maybe 6 nights of events leading up or including Cleveland. We don't have dates yet. It's there's quite a few dependencies there. We're trying to get something done closer to fall than to winter. So trying to get that, but it's depending on the availability of Silent Distillery as well. So Silent Distillery launches in April, and typically it takes quite a bit of time to get it to the United States. So I would say like it'll be September, October would be my guess. Late September, October would be my guess. And so we'll have hopefully more news on that in the coming weeks. We've first got to get our dates sorted and make sure everyone's available that's promised to be part of it or wants to be part of it anyway. Go get Roy Buckley back in. Oh yeah, Roy. We could get Roy. Roy's only around the corner from me. Roy sang when we were in Irish Malts, when we did a lock-in in the Irish Malts a couple of years back. It is a couple of years this stage, maybe 18 months anyway. And Roy Buckley was the great Cork singer. Gravelly voice, deep gravelly voice. No, Steve, no updates on merchandise. I've no updates on that. All the times on the whiskey at the moment. All right, so those are the next dates. Friday, Thursday is our tasting event. You'll want your Shorecross whiskey. You'll want water, chocolate, preferably orange chocolate, orange milk chocolate, maybe orange dark chocolate, if you can find it. An ice cube, bring it along. If you have something like a York peppermint patty or an after 8 mint, bring that. There's a peppermint note that's unmistakable in this. We'll taste this with David and Fiona. That's on Thursday night. Friday, you're going to register for this. And then just to temper expectations, once you register, you're not going to get any notification saying, congratulations, you're one of 70 people to get a pour of Napo Castle. You will discover whether you're the lucky person when you open your package, when it arrives to you the week before our event. So the event is on March 27th. You'll get the package probably around March 20th. And then when you rush to open it, climbing over children and kicking over chairs in the process, you'll discover if you got a sample of 1951 in there. And maybe if there's something else that comes along that we get to offer you to throw into that box, we'll do the same as well. I'll know this week. So Sinead, I think that's it. Richard said, I was asked what time those emails are going out for the sign up. I don't know. And it doesn't matter, Richard. It's not a first come, first served. They go out on Thursday, and registration is not limited. So we have more. We believe we have more kits than we have members. So we should be okay. So we're not. We don't have a time on that right now. I have one dependency on that, which is to do with the timing of the release of their second video, Napo Castle's video. If I find that out, I will know during the week. I'll let you know. Whiskey Festival, Wexford Whiskey Fest. What happened, says Roy. Was something supposed to happen, Roy? It's next week. Cork Whiskey Festival then at the end of the month, at the end of March. So Wexford Whiskey Festival next Friday and Saturday. I'll be down there hosting events with Michael Cowman and Dahi O'Connell from WD O'Connell Whiskey Merchants and the Sky in the Ground pub. They're hosting events for 2 days. I'll be down there. We'll share some pictures and we'll share some video maybe from the events that are taking place in one of the small regional festivals that are starting up this year, which is great. And then Cork Whiskey Festival takes place at the end of March, March 24th to 26th in Cork. So lots happening. All right, Sinead, everybody. Thanks very much for joining tonight, and thanks to Anthony for joining in with us. We talked about Midleton Very Rare 2023. I enjoyed that drop of whiskey, by the way. I would even choose that over 2022. They both have their place. 2023 is the winner for me. Really like it. Robust, great long finish to it. Lovely balance of sweetness and spice. We talked about NFTs. Half of us are none the wiser. Half of us are a small bit wiser, but interesting to watch what happens there. And we talked about the whiskey bus, upcoming tastings. Sinead, you're a great old bunch, good old community, and I really appreciate you joining in the Sunday night for the Crackaroo. Sinead, I'll talk to you all during the week. Have a good early start to your week, and we'll see you soon. All right, so on to everybody. Thanks a million.